The summer I learned to listen to the old house began with a light that lay like honey on the kitchen linoleum and a girl I knew only as Mara, who wore a ribbon the colour of dried lilac and spoke in a voice that sounded like rain in a well-loved book. Our house stood at the edge of the village, where the road narrowed to a memory and the pines held their breath as the sun wrote gold across the tin gutters. It had the patience of someone who has weathered too many summers to count, and it remembered things the way grandmothers remember recipes. Little gestures, little accidents, little silences that seem ordinary until they aren't. I was a boy then, thin as a reed and light with summer, and Mara was a month or two older, the kind who could coax a laugh from you even when you hadn't known you meant to weep. We found the back stairs behind the pantry, the door that wasn't on the blueprints we'd studied in the daylight, when Father would tell us to mind the cracks, and the house would pretend to mind along with him. It creaked, as if it still believed in childhood prayers. At the top was a narrow landing that led to a room we called the quiet, because the house's voices bottled there seemed softer, more patient. As if they'd learned to whisper through the plaster so they wouldn't frighten anyone away. Mara believed the house kept a secret room for its favourite games, and I, unwisely and wonderfully then, believed her. We would press our ears to the door in the late afternoon, listening as if the walls could be coaxed to tell us a story, if we only listened long enough. When Mara's ribbon brushed the air as she moved, I thought I could hear the house sigh in relief. A seam between floors clicking open, like a door to another afternoon. The ritual, we called it in our simplest, bravest voices. 3 gentle taps on a wall, a breath held, a wish spoken soft enough to be carried by the dust. The first time we found the secret room, it was not really a room at all, but a small, sun-cradled chamber that seemed to exist because we expected it to exist. The summer's light pooled on a wooden chair that had never learned to sit still, a desk with a drawer that appeared and disappeared like a small miracle, and a window that faced a garden we weren't supposed to keep secrets in. On the desk lay a single sheet of paper, folded as though it had been tucked away for years, though I knew it hadn't been. Mara, who was always braver with a pen in her hand than I was with a ball in mine, dared me to open it. The paper bore a map, not of streets or fields, but of time, with little arrows that pointed toward us and then away. As if the house itself could be measured in the minutes that passed between its breath and ours. I did not understand then that Mara carried something the house wanted from us more than we wanted from it, company. It had never learned how to be lonely, and we arrived each day with our bright, reckless hunger for a story, for a place where a boy could pretend to forget the grown world that waited outside the door. The map led to a corner of the quiet where the light lay differently, and there Mara whispered a name I did not know, another name of a person, but a name of a feeling, a yearn that sounded like a remembered kiss and a warning but once. The name had a memory of its own, as if the house had planted it there to see if we would notice. The days, oh, the long deliberate days, unfolded with the soft violence of gentle mischief. We played hide and seek until our shadows grew longer than the coats of the hall trees. And the house listened to us as if it had learned to love the sound of children's laughter in the late hours when the sun didn't quite want to set. Mara's laugh braided into the old house's sighs, and the house, which knew a child's voice was a prayer, answered us with quiet rooms that would never betray a secret, even if we leaned our ears against the walls and listened for the echo of our own heartbeat, beating in the wood. But not every day stayed bright as the surface of a pond. There was a weight in Mara's eyes, the moment our games drifted beyond the pantry door, into the hidden stairs. She began to speak less of the house and more of what could be kept safe there, what could be held away from the rain and the rain of adults' disclosures. She spoke of a garden that remembered our footsteps, of a window that showed a future we might one day inhabit, if we were careful. I didn't have the courage to ask how she knew such things, nor the sense to stop listening when the house started to murmur its own version of a bedtime story, a tale about the currency of time, how it can be spent and saved within walls, and how a friend could be kept forever if you dared to listen long enough. Then came the day Mara did not return from the garden, where the lilacs grew so thick you could almost lose yourself in their scent. The house did not tell us what happened. It only revealed a seam in the air where the air should be thickest, and the scene stretched until the world outside grew thin and pale. When we found Mara again, she was there, but not as we remembered, not as the girl with the lilac ribbon who could run faster than a shadow. She stood there as if she had always been a future version of herself and had forgotten to come out of the door all the way. Her lips were still, but her eyes carried the gravity of someone who knows the end of a story before the first sentence is spoken. Her absence did not feel like a simple sorrow, but a riddle we both had to live in. The house did not give us an answer, but gave Mara back to us, the back of her head, the curl of her hair, the way the ribbon hung just so, every day after, as if to remind us that absence is a room that grows in your chest and never truly leaves you behind. We learned to pretend the missing piece could be found in a corner of a wardrobe or behind a curtain's fold. And we learned to pretend the house wanted us to pretend. The ritual became a quiet superstition to ward off the sense that the house was listening to us with more patience than we could muster, as if it knew that the disappearance was only the first syllable of a longer sentence it intended to teach us to read aloud someday. Time moved like a careful hand guiding a child's wrist. The summer ended, and with it the heat that made the walls glow like old coins. We left the old house with the same ease with which a traveller locks the door behind them, certain the road will take care of what it must. The house did not forget us, though, and I would learn later that it never forgot what we forgot to say to it at dusk. Many years later, I returned, the way old things return when you have learned the language you pretended not to be listening for. The village had grown small around the house, as if the years had decided to lean its weight against it and see if the cornerstone would hold. The garden wore a melancholy uniform of neglect and bravely stubborn